So let me just give you a key background on what some of this research information reveals. These early anthropologists and scientists and people who were involved in, and philosophers, in creating the structure on how to have control over your now freed slaves, there were a lot of systems that were set in place to also ensnare those that were now free. And even though we're now in the 21st century, those snares are still there. They're just not visible. And this is where it's going to be essential for anyone who's working in the community to really get access to this information that will be revealed to you in our discussions from October to December. So learning how to navigate with knowing the background ideology and where the future is going to take us is absolutely key. So let me share with you quickly what some of the discussions that was shared from European forefathers. And it had to do with the breakdown of the psychology and the mental and the behavior of the people, the Negro people. And here's what they basically had to say in terms of what were Negro characteristics when they compared Negroes with Caucasian children, and not just Negroes with Caucasian children, but most importantly, the comparison of Negroes within Negroes. This was the most fascinating part of the research that I had come across. Well, not the most, but one of them. And that is just the different ideologies between the various Negroes that are workable and non-workable within the European system that they're most comfortable with. Now, when we were freed in terms of, like, say, in America and other places, it was more of the mulatto type that were really getting the opportunities and the push to excel. And if they weren't getting the opportunities or the push, it was a lot more easier to wing it. And a lot of African-American women and Caribbean women, wherever they were being abused at the hands of their masters and giving birth to numerous amounts of mulatto children who later went on to become instrumental in changes globally initially. One of these books makes a key mention about that. The advancements for the overall the Caribbean Afro community isn't just from, let's say, the darker culture. It was actually from the mulatto individuals that really paved the way and then allowed the more darker complexion Negroes to come in. So here's what's key instrumental information to know, because the psychology behind it doesn't change. We still have to keep the traditional psychology in mind with these new developments that are going to be present here in the future. So what they basically had said in some of these studies is that working with more lighter skinned Caribbean or African Americans, while they were very intellectually sometimes more advanced, they would say, than Negroes, because their thought process was that darker Negroes just didn't have the capacity, that they were also more of a threat over time in terms of the long-term roles and goals. And so it would be essential to really find a way to work with the darker skinned Negroes to get them workable, okay? And so they also mentioned that in working with Negro peoples, you will have a lot more advantage in working with the darker skinned Negroes, however, because they feel from a position of a place of threat that even if they have their confidence and education and everything else, they're still darker skinned Negroes. And so a lighter skinned Negro knows that they have some mixture in them, versus when a darker skinned Negro, unless that dark skinned Negro happened to be dark skinned from like two light skinned parents or a light skinned parent, and they kind of have this idea that I still have power, even though you might feel I'm dark skinned, I've got some European mixture in me, or however you might put the psychology. The point here is what these European forefathers are saying is that where you have more of the purebred Negroes, you're going to have a more difficult yet easier time, because they're not going to have as much bold confidence, as opposed to the lighter skinned Negroes, because they have a little bit of that European mix in there. So when you want to order one around, or when you want to work with one, sometimes it's harder to shift them because they've got this sense of entitlement. Meanwhile, the Negroes are still wanting to have a sense of belonging. And this is key, because whoever's listening to this, you want to find out where within that breakdown you might be. And it's going to be essential in how you're probably being played in your role as well out there. And it does matter, because this is another strategy that's being used within the community advancements. And this is why your help is going to be essential in particular areas in knowing this.